$1 million wedding. A billionaire standing at the altar about to slip a ring onto the finger of the woman he loves when three unfamiliar boys suddenly appear. No flowers, no congratulations, just a single envelope containing DNA results. And then, the ring never makes it to her hand, it falls to the floor. But the real shock didn't end there, because one of the three children wasn't even his. Marcus Langford never believed in fate. Everything in his life, from becoming CEO of Langford Dynamics to being crowned America's most eligible bachelor, was the result of strategy, effort, and control. But on the very day that was supposed to mark the perfect beginning of his new life with Dr. Elaine Chen, fate shattered everything he had meticulously built. With 3 knocks on the door. Thud, thud, thud. The sound echoed just as the priest asked, "Does anyone object to this union?" And as if the universe was mocking him, the grand church doors swung open. 3 teenage boys around 15, dressed in black suits, walked down the crowded aisle. They moved straight through the stunned guests and stopped right in front of Marcus. Mr. Langford, the one in the middle, spoke. His voice cut through the suffocating silence. "My name is Noah, this is Ben, and this is Eli. We are your sons." The entire church seemed to hold its breath. Elaine turned to Marcus, her expression shifting from confusion to fury in less than 2 seconds. "What the hell is going on, Marcus?" Marcus stammered, "I don't know who these kids are." Noah pulled a thick envelope from his jacket pocket. "These are DNA test results, conducted by 2 separate laboratories. You can verify them. We just thought you deserved to know the truth before starting your new life." Camera shutters fired off like fireworks. Reporters from the back rows began rushing forward. Elaine took a trembling step backward. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but her voice was sharp as a blade. "You humiliated me in front of New York's entire elite over 3 illegitimate children?" "Elaine, I didn't." "Didn't know?" She let out a cold laugh and spun on her heel. "The wedding's off. Enjoy your new family." Marcus didn't have time to stop her. She disappeared into the chaos. But what truly paralyzed him wasn't Elaine walking away. It was looking down and seeing his mother, Lucinda, kneeling, gently stroking Eli's hair and smiling as if she had known all along. Marcus felt like he was standing in the middle of a play with no script, and he was the only one who hadn't been given any lines. Marcus stood frozen like a statue under hundreds of eyes. Not a single word escaped his lips. Every sound seemed to vanish, replaced only by the pounding of his heartbeat in his ears. The press surged forward. Microphones, flashbulbs, questions, shouting his name. "Marcus, are these really your biological children? Is this why you got a vasectomy so late? Triplets? A 15-year-old scandal?" Marcus turned to chase after Elaine, but it was too late. She had already stepped into the car, and the Bentley door slammed shut, like a period at the end of everything he once called a future. He turned back, his eyes locking with the eerily calm gaze of his mother, Lucinda Langford. "Who are these kids, Mom?" Marcus nearly shouted, not caring who was listening. Lucinda stood upright, adjusted her coat, and spoke gently. "You know exactly who they are, Marcus, or at least you should. Claire Whitman, the girl you were madly in love with back in Chicago, she got pregnant." The words hit like a gunshot. "Claire?" Marcus stepped back half a pace. "Are you serious, Mom?" "As serious as any earnings report from Langford Dynamics," she said, her voice completely unwavering. "And I did what had to be done to protect your future. Claire was not the right name." "How?" Marcus whispered. "What did you do to her?" Lucinda didn't answer. Instead, she turned to the 3 boys and spoke in a tone full of affection. "Children, I'm Lucinda, your grandmother. Welcome to the Langford family." The boys remained silent. Only Eli, the youngest, took a small step back, as if trying to hide behind his brothers. Marcus felt like he couldn't breathe. His entire world had just exploded on his wedding day, and the person who had lit the fuse was his own mother. Suddenly, a gentle hand touched his arm. It was Noah. The boy's eyes were clear, not afraid, not angry, just filled with one thing: hope. "We didn't come to ruin anything," Noah said, his voice low but steady. "We just wanted you to know we exist." Then he placed the DNA envelope back into Marcus's hand. "Whatever you do, we're still your blood. I don't need anything else. Just don't pretend we were never here." Marcus looked at the 3 boys, 3 faces that looked uncannily alike. The same sharp nose, the same deep brown eyes, his eyes from years ago. And in that moment, he knew. No matter how hard he tried to deny it, The truth was standing right in front of him, flesh and blood. Marcus didn't sleep. All night, one question kept turning over in his mind. Why? Why hadn't she said anything? Why didn't he know? In the old archives of the Langford estate, Marcus stepped into a dusty, locked room, his old college bedroom. On a wooden shelf with a broken hinge, he found a box of old letters, the place where Claire used to send him everything. And then, buried between birthday cards and little notes, he saw it. A sealed envelope. The wax was still intact, the handwriting unmistakably hers. Marcus, I'm pregnant, not with 1, 3. I know you'll panic, but I believe you'll do the right thing. If you're reading this, maybe your mother didn't destroy it like I feared. I don't want anything, just for you to know the truth. If we never find each other again, at least I didn't keep this from you. Claire. Marcus's hand began to tremble. A chill ran down his spine. He had never seen this letter. He swore to God, never. Just then, soft footsteps echoed behind him. It was Noah. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I found this. He held up a file. Grandma gave it to me, but I kind of read it. Marcus took the file. Hospital records from the year the boys were born. Mother's name, Claire Whitman. Father's name, left blank. Grandma told Mom never to come back. She never said much, but I saw her cry every time someone mentioned Chicago, Noah said, his voice tightening. Last week, she told us she had to leave town for work. I never thought it'd lead to this. You don't know where your mom is? Marcus asked. Noah shook his head. She didn't say a word. But last night, I posted your picture on one of her old online forums. A former friend sent this. He held out his phone. In the photo, Claire, her hair shorter, thinner, stood outside a small bookstore in Vermont, holding an old book to her chest. Her gaze was distant, and on her left wrist, Marcus caught a glimpse of the silver bracelet he had given her years ago. She's alive, Marcus whispered. And for the first time in 15 years, he swore to himself. This time, no one was going to stop him. Vermont greeted Marcus with an unexpected cold rain. He felt nothing but the pounding of his heart as the car neared Middlebury, the town where Noah said his mother had last been seen. But what puzzled Marcus most was something Noah had said. I thought Mom was just on a work trip, but maybe she's been gone longer than we realized. The SUV pulled up in front of a small bookstore called Second Chances. The photo of Claire had been taken right outside just days ago, but everything about it suggested she'd been there for some time. From the way she stood to how she shelved the books, to the handwritten sign advertising a poetry reading taped to the front window. Marcus stepped inside. The bell above the door gave a soft ring. A young employee greeted him, but he simply held up the photo. Claire Whitman. Is she here? The girl hesitated, then nodded slowly. She's worked here for a few months, but she doesn't usually meet with strangers. Marcus reached into his coat and pulled out the old envelope, Claire's handwriting untouched by time. Please, he said, tell her the man who never got this letter is waiting outside. A few minutes later, Claire appeared. The same eyes, deep but quieter now. Her hair was short, streaked with gray. She wore a gray turtleneck sweater and held a small notebook in her hand. Marcus. I never knew, he said immediately. About the letter, about the boys, about you. She smiled, half sad. You didn't know, but your mother did. Claire sat down on an old leather chair. She came to see me. Before I could even say a word, she handed me a blank check and a warning. If I loved you, I should disappear. Marcus froze. I didn't take the money, but I left because she made me believe my presence would only bring pain to everyone. He struggled to speak. Then, what are you doing here? Why didn't you go back to the kids? Claire sighed. I did go back, but lately I've had to stay away. There's something I need to do. Something connected to the Langford family. I've been investigating something for the past few months, and you're not ready to hear it. She looked him straight in the eyes. The kids aren't just a truth that was hidden from you. The real question is why they were hidden, and the person behind it all isn't just your mother. Marcus had never felt his heart pound so hard while sitting still. In front of him was Claire, the woman he once loved, the mother of his 3 children, and now the keeper of a secret that could bring down the entire Langford legacy. Claire, you said, my mother wasn't the only one behind your disappearance. Then, who else? His voice was low, but tightly restrained. Claire looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood, walked to the back shelf, and pulled out a small wooden box with a latch. She opened it, retrieved a stack of old, yellowed documents, some black and white photos, and a copy of a will with a red stamp. I didn't leave because I feared your mother. I left because I feared this truth would destroy you if you found out too soon. She laid each item carefully on the table. Marcus, your grandfather, Edward Langford, once had a son with a Haitian woman who worked as a gardener at the family's summer estate. When she became pregnant, he amended part of his will acknowledging the child as his own. Marcus held his breath. You mean there's a hidden bloodline in my family? Claire nodded. That child was never publicly recognized. After Edward died, your father, Richard, made sure every trace of that history disappeared. Maybe he thought it was the only way to protect the family name, but I found the original copy of the will with help from an old lawyer who once worked for Edward. She slid the document across to Marcus. And this is why I backed away. When I became pregnant with your children, your mother believed I came from a bloodline that wasn't worthy. But what she never knew is that same bloodline already ran through the Langfords long before I ever showed up. Marcus felt the room spin. I kept this secret all these years to protect the kids, to let them grow up in peace. But then, as they got older, started asking about their father, about why you weren't there. I couldn't keep them from the truth any longer. He looked at the pile of documents, evidence sitting there like a silent indictment for decades. And I believe the three kids have the right to know that they are not a mistake. They are the rightful continuation of a buried truth. Marcus's vision blurred, not from tears, but from the cracks spreading inside his heart. Claire, he whispered, do you realize this could destroy the Langford name, the estate, the company, even the position I hold? Claire cut him off, gentle but cold. Marcus, I'm not here to claim any inheritance. I'm here to demand recognition for the three kids, for the truth, and for you. The air seemed to freeze. Claire took a deep breath, then finished. The question isn't, what do you stand to lose, Marcus? The question is, do you have the courage to do what's right? The Langford house in the heart of Manhattan remained silent and still, as if everything inside refused to accept change. But Marcus was no longer the obedient boy who followed the family's plans. He stepped into the living room where Lucinda sat by the window, flipping through the pages of a newspaper but staring off into the distance. She didn't look up at the sound of his footsteps. You're home? Yes, I met Claire. At that moment, the newspaper paused mid-turn in her hands. And the children? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. They look a lot like me, Mom, from their eyes to how the eldest, Noah, bites his lip when he's nervous. Lucinda gave a faint smile. Then she set the paper down, stood, and walked to the ebony table to pour tea for them both. Her hand trembled slightly. Is Claire angry with me? She asked. No, she didn't know you kept that letter all these years, Marcus replied calmly. But I did. Lucinda paused. A late autumn breeze slipped through the curtains, making the room feel unusually fragile. I only wanted to protect you. You were just starting on the board of directors then. A romantic relationship with a girl working part-time at a bookstore? With 3 unborn children? Her voice cracked. They would have crushed you, Marcus. I saw what they did to your father. I couldn't bear to see it happen again. Marcus fell silent. In that moment, the woman before him was no longer the cold Lucinda Langford, but a lonely mother who had lived her life burdened by anxiety and scars from the past. I lost 15 years, he said. 12 years not knowing I was a father. You didn't just protect me from pain, you took away my chance to be loved. Lucinda sank into her chair, her eyes drifting into emptiness. So what do you plan to do now? Make everything public, Marcus replied. Acknowledge the 3 children. They are my children, Mom. Even if the whole world is against it, I choose to stand by them. Lucinda looked up at him, her lips pressed together. Then suddenly she reached out and grasped her son's hand. If you're determined, I won't stand in your way anymore, she said softly. But Marcus, be prepared. The Langford family doesn't fall because of scandal. It falls because the people inside it turn their backs on each other. Marcus nodded. Then I'll be the first to turn away, but only to face the right direction. Marcus Langford stood before dozens of camera lenses, flashes flickering like silent fireworks. Outside the Langford Group headquarters, reporters and onlookers packed the streets. Some held supportive signs, others shouted protests. The atmosphere felt like America was exploding over a royal scandal. Marcus adjusted the microphone, his gaze steady. To everyone who has ever trusted me, today, I have something to say. He paused, took a deep breath. Behind the curtain, Claire stood beside the three children. They all wore matching white shirts and navy blue pants, as if ready for a family portrait. Noah held Claire's hand tightly. She nodded, reassuring him. More than 10 years ago, I loved a woman whom the elite called unworthy. I lost her, and I lost 3 children, my own flesh and blood. Hundreds of microphones reached up. The murmurs swelled like crashing waves. They are the result of love, not mistakes. I accept my responsibility as their father. And from today, I publicly declare Noah, Ben, and Eli are my sons. Several reporters stood up. The word spread like a tsunami. Twitter, TikTok, all social media platforms ignited. Just 30 minutes after the press conference, Langford Group's stock dropped 4.7%. Claire looked at Marcus with a mix of astonishment and admiration. He had chosen to stand in the eye of the storm and still kept his back straight. But at that moment, a voice rang out from the back of the press hall. If that's what you say, how do you explain the second DNA test result? Everyone turned around. A silver-haired man in a dark suit stepped up to the podium. It was Walter Quinn, the company's personal lawyer. Marcus frowned. Walter, what are you talking about? Walter pulled out a large envelope and slammed it down on the press table. A security guard opened it and held up a paper stamped with a red seal. We conducted an independent DNA test yesterday through a federally certified forensics center, Walter said, his voice cold as steel. This result denies any biological relationship between you and the 3 children. The room erupted into chaos. Marcus went pale. Claire quickly stepped forward, pulling the 3 children back inside. That can't be, Marcus whispered. I had the initial results. How could this be? Walter leaned forward, slowly addressing the hundreds of microphones. The real question should be, who sent you that initial result? And what are they trying to make you believe? The flashbulbs kept firing as Marcus Langford stood surrounded by reporters, but this time his eyes were no longer as steady as before. His face went pale when Walter Quinn, the company lawyer, held up the latest DNA test results. We tested each child separately. Ben and Eli are biologically Mr. Langford's, Walter said solemnly. However, Noah does not share a biological relationship with him. Those words struck like a hammer directly to Marcus's heart. The atmosphere felt heavier than ever. Marcus turned to look at Claire, who was standing nearby. Her eyes flickered with worry mixed with tension, yet she remained completely composed. Claire, Marcus's voice cracked. What does this mean? Why isn't Noah my biological son? Claire looked at Marcus, her eyes full of sadness, then softly replied, Marcus, there is a truth you don't yet know, a secret I've kept for many years. A secret? Marcus asked, a mix of anger and curiosity in his voice. Noah isn't your biological son, but he's a part of this family, a very important part, Claire said slowly, each word meant to reassure him. Trust me, there's a very special reason why I had to keep this hidden. The 3 children stood nearby, holding hands tighter, as if they could sense the storm was far from over. Marcus lowered his head, struggling to process the shock, but deep down, he knew his family wasn't broken, even if some pieces weren't yet clear. Walter looked at Marcus and added a warning. You need to prepare yourself for the fallout from this. The media won't go easy on you or your family. Marcus sighed, glancing at Claire and the 3 children. No matter what happened, he wouldn't abandon them. Claire smiled softly, her eyes filled with determination. Let time answer all the questions, Marcus, and tomorrow you'll understand Noah better, about the true heart of our family. After a long night of hardly any sleep, Marcus sat in the living room with the 3 children asleep on the sofa, huddled together like a cluster of young trees trembling before a storm. Dawn's light was just slipping through the curtains when Claire entered, carrying an old wooden box. Marcus, she called softly. He looked up, his face tired but his eyes still filled with questions. Claire placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside was an old photo. 2 young women, almost identical, laughing and holding hands by the seaside, the wind blowing their hair. One was Claire, the other Marcus recognized immediately, was Emily, Claire's twin sister. Emily, Marcus murmured. We met once before, right? Claire nodded, her eyes shining with a deep regret. She died in a terrible car accident. At the time, Emily was pregnant. Marcus froze. The doctors saved the baby. That was Noah. But my sister didn't survive. Claire clenched her hand. Emily and I are identical twins. Our genes match 99%. That's also why Noah grew up looking so much like Ben and Eli. People thought they were triplets, and I never corrected them. Marcus sat in silence as scattered memories slowly pieced together. When I gave birth to Ben and Eli, I also adopted Noah. The three of them grew up together, drinking from the same bottle, sleeping in the same bed. They called me Mom, and I didn't have the courage to say one of them wasn't my biological child. Claire, Marcus gasped. Why did you hide this from me all these years? I had the right to know. When you left, I lost everything, not just your love, but trust. I was preparing to be a single mother. Then Emily's accident happened. I didn't want Noah to grow up feeling separate or for anyone to think he was the child they picked up. He deserved to be loved fully, just like the other two. Marcus looked at the three children sleeping soundly. Inside him, a truth slowly emerged. It was Noah, not the biological child, who first ran to hug him when he was angry, who quietly apologized when the other two fought, who drew family pictures with him standing in the middle. Claire, Marcus said, his voice rough, I don't care what the DNA says anymore. They are my children, all of them. And Noah is the heart of this entire family. Claire silently wept. In that moment, they were no longer ex-lovers burdened by the past, but parents of three children dreaming innocent dreams in a tangled life. 3 weeks later, Marcus Langford's mansion was no longer a place of silence filled with board meetings or the stern tapping of tables. Instead, it echoed with the bright laughter of children, the clinking of dishes in the kitchen, and the warm aroma of freshly baked apple pie filling the rooms. You spill it all over your hands just by leaning over, Eli giggled. Marcus grimaced. We usually have breakfast in the conference room. Don't laugh at your old man like that. Ben was using a highlighter pen to draw a mustache and beard on Marcus's photo in the newspaper. Noah sat quietly watching, his eyes shining with a happiness that needed no words. Claire came out from the kitchen, wiping her apron. Everyone eat before it gets cold. And Marcus, I have good news. What is it? Marcus looked up. My vintage bookstore will reopen. I just rented the old place back. The new owner agreed to let me renovate it like before. But I'll need someone to help with setting up the old book displays. Marcus smiled. Looks like I need to relearn how to dust books. The whole table burst into laughter. After breakfast, Marcus went out to the backyard where the three kids were playing family. Ben was the dad, Eli was the watchdog, and Noah was the photographer, holding the old camera Marcus used back in college. Marcus walked over and sat beside Claire on the wooden swing. You know, he said, watching the three kids, I used to think all I needed was success, fames, and billion-dollar deals. But since these three came into my life, I realized I was missing the most important thing. Claire nodded gently. Love doesn't come on schedule. It arrives when we least expect it, and sometimes in the most surprising ways. Marcus turned to her. I love you, Claire, and the three of them too. If you give me a chance, this time I won't walk away. Claire didn't answer right away. She watched the kids playing in the sun, their laughter filling the garden, then turned to him and squeezed his hand tightly. Then come home, Marcus. We're waiting for you. No more words were needed, just a soft nod and a tender look, and Marcus knew he had finally found what he'd been searching for all along. A home, a family, and a love that didn't have to be perfect, just real.